Okay, okie doke.
Good morning, everybody. This is Milani, your host. I just want to quickly go through all of this with you. So all of you know that we have changed from Zoom to Teams. Okay, we are still in a bit of a learning phase with how everything is going to work out with Teams. And I know some of the guys were struggling to get onto the team sessions yesterday. But I am available in the Q&A section should you have any questions or anything like that in regards with where you can get the links or anything like that. And yes, if you have any questions or answers, I'll be in the chat box to assist you guys. But from my side, I hope you have a fantastic lesson, and Fiona will take over now.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope that you can hear me. Welcome to the STEM Lockdown Digital School, and welcome to your grade 6 first additional language reading lesson for week 4. Now, it's very different because you can't see my face in this program, and I won't be able to hear your voices, which is going to be a different way of presenting, but I'm so glad that you have joined us. Here's a photo of me so you can imagine me talking as we go along. As I ask questions, I'd like you to call them out so that you can be practicing your English. Call out as though you were talking to me face to face. And yeah, so we can just pretend that we are talking. Okay, let's get going. So today is a reading lesson, and we are working on term 2, weeks 3 and 4 of CAPS, the CAPS curriculum for reading. Today we're talking about information text. You remember last week was all about stories, but today and this week and next week is information text. So this is what we're going to do. Information text is all about paragraphs, and so we're going to review the way a paragraph is formed. We're going to describe an endangered animal because you know that's our theme for the next 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks our theme was wild animals, and now we've narrowed into endangered animals, as you discovered yesterday in our listening and speaking lesson. Then we're going to have a discussion about rhinos, okay, but you will be talking, but I won't be able to hear you, but please talk. And we're going to review some of the vocabulary in the text that we're going to read. After that, we're going to read information text together. You'll be reading aloud with me, I hope, so that you can practice your reading. And you will answer questions about the text at the end to see how much you remember. Finally, we'll create a summary of what we've learned as though you were doing a test, you know, an idea for how to learn if you're doing a test. Right, let's get going. So when I say that we're doing information text, what do I mean? Well, information text is a piece of non-fiction writing which gives information about a topic. Information texts do not mention events in chronological order like stories. They don't have plots. They just have information that's mentioned under headings. So these are the kind of things you have in information text. It's usually presented like this. It'll have a main title, and then there'll be subheadings. Sometimes there'll be bullet points. There'll be paragraphs. And there'll also be pictures, diagrams, and or captions. So that's how information text works. And let's just talk about paragraphs. Right, now you know that a paragraph has got a special way of being formed. This is information about paragraphs. A paragraph usually consists of around 5 sentences, but sometimes it can be a few more. But it's got one sentence, which we call the topic sentence, which summarizes the whole paragraphs and gives the main idea. And then it's got about 3 or 4 other sentences that all relate to that same main idea. And one and then a sentence that sort of rounds off the paragraph. So today when we're reading our information text, I'll point out the structure in a couple of the paragraphs that you'll read. Right, let's get going. Now, yesterday in our listening and speaking lesson, I asked you to describe this endangered animal because we were doing descriptions yesterday. And when you have a description, it's a kind of paragraph as well, but it has got a special structure. I wonder if anybody actually managed to describe this endangered animal. Like you would have mentioned its name, which you know is a rhino. You would have mentioned that it is a mammal, what family it belongs to. It's the mammal family. And you would have described it, mentioning its body parts, using adjectives, trying to think what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, using the 5 senses. And then you would have mentioned a reason for it being endangered. Okay, I'm showing you this picture because that is our topic for today, the rhino. So let's have a quick discussion on rhinos. Yesterday in our listening and speaking lesson, we mentioned 7 other fairly unknown animals in South Africa that are endangered, because everybody knows about the rhino and the elephant. But let's have a quick discussion on rhinos. And as I ask the questions, so you call out the answers, and I wish I could hear, but I won't be able to hear. What does a rhino look like? Can you just give a sentence or 2 sentences describing a rhino? What does it look like? Where do we find rhinos in South Africa? Can you go down to the local, into the countryside and see rhinos? Where are they all? Where are they kept? Can they just roam around freely? Are they dangerous? Those horns, I wouldn't like one of those horns stuck into me. Okay, number 3, are they friendly or dangerous? There is one rule of thumb. Wild animals are never friendly. They're never friendly unless they've been brought up from very young and they're used to humans, or unless they're drugged and they're drugged. Number 4, are there different kinds of rhinos, or is there just a rhino in South Africa? Do you know of any different kinds of rhinos? I've done number 4 twice. This is number 5. What do rhinos eat? What do they eat? Do you know? Do they eat meat, or what do they eat? What is their family life like? Do they have lots of babies? Do they carry their babies? Well, they're mammals, so obviously a mammal always carries their baby in their womb. But do they have a lot of babies, or just 1 or 2? And as you know, rhinos are becoming endangered. Why do people poach rhinos? Why? Do they like the meat, for example? What's the reason? And number 7, why are rhinos important to us? Do they have any purpose, or are they just there for us to look at and enjoy? What are your thoughts on that? Right, so that was a discussion session just to get you thinking about rhinos. Right. Now, as we read now, you're going to come across certain words. I think I've highlighted them in red. And I just want to go through the meaning of those words so that when we read them, you'll know what they mean. So we'll talk about species, the rhino species. What do we mean? It's an animal, in this context, it's an animal group that can reproduce with one another in nature and produce babies. The rhino's got a very broad back. What does that mean, a broad back? It's very wide. It's a big, wide. In fact, a rhino is the second biggest land animal in South Africa, the first being the elephant. What is a snout? A rhino has a snout. That's the projecting nose and mouth of an animal that forms a snout. Like you've seen, like a pig has a snout, a rhino has a snout. Rhinos like to live in the floodplains and the grasslands. So what do we mean by floodplains? Floodplains, we don't really have that many here in South Africa, I don't think, but floodplains are an area of ground that's near a river and that's often flooded by a river. They are known as browsers. What does that mean? They are a browser. Well, they feed on, a rhino feeds on leaves, soft shoots, or fruit, plants. They pluck the leaves or the shoots or the fruit. What does that mean? They pluck. So pluck means that you take hold of something and you remove it. And if we mentioned that a rhino carries its baby in its womb because it's a mammal. What is a womb? A womb is an organ in a female mammal that carries the unborn child. Right, I think that's all my vocabulary that I want you to know. So, one more, traditional. Those horns are used for traditional Chinese medicine. What does traditional mean? It means something that's been established for a long time. Right, let's get going. I really want you to practice your reading with me. Read aloud with me, and always remember these three things that when you read, try and pronounce the words correctly. Try and read fluently without stopping, and try and put some expression in your voice. Okay. Oh dear, mine's going by itself. That's not good. So let's read about rhinos. The rhino has a huge stocky body and a large head, a short neck, and a broad chest. It has 2 horns on its snout. In South Africa, we have 2 species of rhino, the white rhino and the black rhino. Strangely enough, these animals are actually both grey in color. The black rhino has a curved upper lip and the white rhino has a square upper lip. Habitat, where do they live? White rhinos and black rhinos live in the grasslands and floodplains of eastern and southern Africa. Now, as with regarding food, I'm sorry, I didn't know that I'd made this go by itself. Rhinos are herbivores. Black rhinos are browsers that like to eat trees and bushes. They use their lips to pluck leaves and fruit from the branches. White rhinos graze on grasses, walking with their enormous heads and squared lips lowered to the ground. Female rhinos have a baby every 2.5 to 5 years. They carry their young in their womb for a long time, 15 to 16 months. They usually only have one baby at a time, though they do sometimes have twins. A baby rhino is called I'm just going to move that back. A baby rhino is called a calf. Poaching. Rhinos are endangered mainly because of poaching. The most common reason for rhino poaching is because there is a high demand for their horns in Asian countries. In these countries, the horns are used mainly for traditional Chinese medicine. They are also used for making knife handles. Endangered. Because of this, the rhinos are listed as endangered animals. The black rhino is critically endangered. A rhino is killed every 10 hours. So in that picture, you can see the rhino horn. The rhino dragging its mouth on the grass. I just want to go back and show you that square lip. See the square lip of the white rhino. Right. Let's go on to our first or our only diagram. This is a chart that shows you the poaching, how it started to get really bad in 2006, and it's just gone up, 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 up. This is in South Africa. But fortunately, it's starting to go down. Maybe they're catching those poachers. I do hope so. So we don't have the figures for last year, 2019, but the year before was 892 rhinos. I'm really relieved. See how a chart gives us other information and shows us how the progression, and now it's going down again. And how can we help save the rhino? Don't buy any rhino horn products. The illegal trade in rhino horn is the biggest threat to rhinos today. Selling those horns or killing for the horns. So tragic. Donate if you want to, if you're really interested in wildlife, the Worldwide Life Fund is the place to donate to. Donate money to the WWF, World Wildlife Fund, to support their work in Africa and Asia to save the rhino. The WWF is the most powerful environmental organization in the world. And as school children, we can write letters to the newspapers and to the government, urging them to save the rhino. So there we have our information text. Did you notice the way it was set out? Did you notice that there were paragraphs? And I'm just going to quickly try and go back to that very first one. Appearance. So the very first sentence is a topic sentence. The rhino has a huge stocky body and a large head, a short neck and a broad chest. The rest of the sentences all carry on describing the rhino and showing the two different ones and their colors. Do you see the main heading there is appearance, the main idea. The second one is just a short, just one sentence really, a topic sentence with no other sentences. It says rhinos are herbivores. That's the main idea of the sentence, the topic sentence. All the rest show you what they actually eat to show that they are herbivores. Family life, they have a baby every 2.5 years is the topic sentence. The rest of the sentences all expand on that information. And the main idea is the family life. And then with poaching, they're endangered mainly because of poaching. It's a topic sentence, and the other sentences are all to do with that sentence, poaching. Endangered, they're listed as endangered animals, and then the other two sentences are also to do with being endangered. Right, you get the idea of the topic sentence. This particular paragraph has got the bullets. And that's another feature of information text. Right, you got all that. Remember all that. Good. Let's see how much you remember. Okay, so in the chat box, you can fill in the following blank spaces with your own choice of words. Number 1, the two species of rhino in South Africa are the something rhino and the something rhino. What would you like to put in there? Can you remember their name, what they are? The two species in South Africa. Right, got that. Number 2, the something rhino is said to be critically endangered. In other words, there's less of the one kind than the other kind. Which kind is the critically endangered, meaning there are not many of them left at all. Number 3, endangered means that rhinos, what? What does endangered mean? Rhinos Right, you finish off that sentence for me, please. Endangered means that rhinos. Right, number 4. How many babies does a female rhino have at a time? Write in your answer. Number 5. Rhinos like to eat plants, so they're known as, what are they known as? Number 6. Rhino horns are in demand because they are used for, what are they mainly used for? Number 7. A baby rhino is called a, and number 8. The best way to tell the difference between a white rhino and a black rhino is to look at its, right, you got all that. I think there might be, no. Okay, let's look at the answers. Let's see if you got the same answers as this. So the 2 species of rhino are the white rhino and the black rhino. The black rhino is the one that's, the white rhino, sorry, is the one that we see the most of in South Africa, the white rhino. But they're both grey. You can't, they're difficult to tell apart except, yeah, you'll find out just now. Which rhino is critically endangered? The black rhino is said to be critically endangered. Endangered means that the rhinos are becoming less and less. Number 4, how many babies does a female rhino have at a time? She usually has 1 baby. Right, how did you do on that? On the first 4, did you get all those correct? Good. Let's go on. Rhinos like to eat plants, so they're known as, rhinos like to eat plants, so they're known as herbivores. Rhino horns are in demand because they are used for, what are they used for? They are used for traditional Chinese medicine. Number 7, a baby rhino is called a calf. Number 8, the best way to tell the difference between a white rhino and a black rhino is to look at its, the best way to tell the difference is to look at its upper lip. The one is curved and the other one's got a square look. Right, how did you do? How did you do? Did you get all those answers right? Then you were listening really well. Well done, well done. Let's go on now. Now, I would like, if you could speak, I would have asked somebody to actually do this, but let's just do it as an exercise together. I'd like you to create a summary. So, on your page, put a heading in the middle that says rhino. All right, got that? You're going to have rhino in the middle. Right, now the first thing is its appearance. Can you write some keywords about its appearance? See if you can write that heading and then just from what you remember, say write 3 keywords about its appearance. You got that? Good. Right. That was the first thing that we looked at in our information text, was the appearance. Then we have the habitat. Habitat is where something lives. Where does the rhino live? Write some keywords. Now you know what the difference is between a keyword and a sentence. Keyword just has the actual words. where a sentence might have a subject and a predicate. So just write keywords. They're just reminder words. You got your keywords? Good. Let's see what you remember about its food. What does it eat? What do rhinos eat? You got your keywords down for what the rhino eats? Number 4, family life. What do you know about a family life of a rhino? How many babies? How long in the womb? Can you remember all the details about family life? Good. Number 5, poaching. Poaching. What can you remember about poaching? Is that the reason why it's endangered? Who are these poachers? Why do they poach? How do they do it without being seen? Are things improving or are they getting worse? Number 6, endangered. Have you got any keywords about being endangered? And number 7, how can we help? Do you remember any of those points about how we can help? Right. There's one heading that I didn't cover in this information text. Can anybody spot a missing heading? Yesterday, when I gave you descriptions of the other 7 endangered animals in South Africa, I mentioned something that I haven't mentioned today. Anyone know what it is? Well, we could call it, why is the rhino important? Or the purpose of the rhino. What is its purpose? Why has it been created? And the reason is that they're very important to the ecosystem, rhinos. They're grazers. They're important grazers because they consume vegetation. And this helps to shape the landscape of South Africa. And it benefits the other animals because it keeps the vegetation down to a manageable size. So rhinos are actually very important to the ecosystem. Well, that brings us to the end of this reading lesson today. And let's just revise what we've done. We did actually cover quite a lot of things. So we worked on the term 2 caps, week 3 and 4 for reading and viewing. We talked about information text. That is the topic for this week and next week. Information text and descriptions. But today we talked about information text. We reviewed the way a paragraph is formed, and in the days to come, whenever you write a paragraph, try and remember that rule to have a topic sentence as your first sentence, and then the other sentences support it, and the last sentence sort of rounds off the paragraph. We described an endangered animal, which was really from yesterday, but I reminded you of that, how we describe using the 5 senses as well. Then we had a discussion about rhinos, and hopefully you called out your answers. And we reviewed some of the vocabulary in the text. Vocabulary is an important way for you to work on your English, to learn different new words every day. And then we read the information text, and you noticed how it was written in headings, topic sentence, and other supporting sentences for each paragraph. There was a main idea. Sometimes there were bullets, there were pictures, and there was a diagram. There's one thing I didn't add today, and I wondered if you noticed. I didn't add captions under the pictures. That could have been helpful, right? If I'd put white rhino, black rhino, things like that in captions. So when you do projects with information text, try and use captions for the pictures that you put in. And you answered questions about the text to see how much you could remember. And I'm sure you all got everything right. And then finally, we created a mind map summary, which is a good way to revise when you've got to the end of reading information text and you want to see how much you remember. Do a mind map summary. Right. This week, if you have time, try some of these activities. So always practice your reading. Reading is the one thing that is the key to the future, you could say. Try this free reading site for some books for you to read online on your level, the Oxford Owl. If you go to your browser and you type in Oxford Owl free books, you'll see the reading scheme that's free. And number 3, if you want to find out more about endangered animals, you can go to this website, kids.kiddle.co. Kiddle is another, it's like Google, but it's a different browser, Kiddle, and its language is said to be a bit easier than Google's language, and you could look up endangered species. I really would like to invite you to our next lesson tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It's a language lesson for term 2, week 1 and, that should say week, yes, 3 and 4, it should say week 3 and 4. It's a language lesson with the things you need to know for week 3 and 4. And the lesson takes our descriptions from yesterday and our listening and speaking and today's information text, and it uses those to teach you grammar. So that brings our lesson to an end. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm really sorry that we couldn't see each other, but I'm glad that you could at least hear me. If you're on social media, look us up, follow us on the Lockdown School, and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.